A dealer in Georgia sold 11 pickup trucks last year with rebuilt titles as certified pre-owned vehicles. 9 of those trucks were in serious mechanical failures within 3 years. Not one buyer was told. That case came out of a class action lawsuit filed in Fulton County Superior Court in 2023. The settlement was sealed. The trucks were still on the road when the papers were signed. I have been working on pickup trucks for 40 years. I rebuilt my first engine in 1986 in a barn in rural Tennessee. I have seen a lot of things in this trade that the average buyer never gets to see. The inside of a frame rail after a rollover. The paint lines behind a door that do not match the body. The way a VIN plate looks when someone has been near it with a heat gun. I have seen trucks come through my shop that were sold as clean used vehicles, but the frame was bent. The airbag modules were cut and rewired. The title said clean. The Carfax said clean. The truck was not clean. Go ahead and hit subscribe. Leave me a comment at the end. I read every one. This is not a complicated scheme. That is what makes it so dangerous. It works because most buyers do not know the difference between 3 words: salvage, rebuilt, clean. Those 3 words determine everything about what you are buying. And dealers who operate in gray markets know exactly how to move a truck from the first word to the third one without ever touching the middle. Let me explain how this works from the beginning. When a truck gets totaled by an insurance company, it receives a salvage title. That designation means the insurer decided the cost to repair the vehicle exceeds its actual value. In most states, that threshold sits somewhere between 75 and 90% of the truck's pre-accident worth. A 2019 Ram 1500 worth $40,000 that costs $35,000 to repair gets totaled. The truck gets a salvage title. The insurance company takes possession and sells it at a salvage auction. Those auctions are not secret. Anyone can buy at them, including dealers who know exactly what they are doing. A salvage title truck cannot legally be driven on public roads in most states. It cannot be registered. It cannot be legally sold for road use. Not in that state. But that is where the scheme starts, because not every state treats a salvage vehicle the same way after it has been repaired. When someone buys a salvage truck and has it repaired or rebuilt, they can apply for what is called a rebuilt title. The rebuilt designation means the vehicle has been inspected and deemed roadworthy again after the repairs. Some states do this inspection seriously. A licensed inspector goes over the truck with documentation. They verify the repairs. They photograph the VIN. They check the frame. Some states do not, and that difference is everything. In states like Vermont, South Dakota, and Kentucky, the rebuilt title inspection process has historically been minimal. The standards for what qualifies a rebuilt vehicle have been looser than in states like California, New York, or Illinois. This is not a secret inside the industry. It is a known route. Buy a salvage truck in Texas after a flood. Haul it to a state with loose inspection requirements. Get it a rebuilt title, then drive it back to a high-value market and retail it. This process is called title washing. It has been illegal under federal law since the Motor Vehicle Information and Cost Savings Act of 1972. But prosecuting title washing is genuinely difficult. The chain of custody across 3 or 4 states with different DMV systems is hard to document in court. And by the time a buyer discovers what happened, the truck is in their driveway, the dealer has been paid, and the paper trail has gone cold. Here is what Carfax will not tell you and why this matters. Carfax is a database. It is only as good as the data that gets reported to it. Title information flows from DMV databases into Carfax, but that flow is not instantaneous and it is not complete. Not every state reports every title change. Rebuilt titles issued in certain states have been known to take months to appear in the national database. During that window, a truck can be sold multiple times with a clean-looking history report. A dealer who knows these reporting timelines can move a truck through the system and have it sold before the rebuilt designation catches up. There is a second problem. Carfax tracks titles by VIN. If a VIN plate has been tampered with, or if a truck has been given a replacement VIN through certain loopholes that exist in salvage documentation, the history attached to that number may not reflect the actual vehicle's past. I am not saying this happens in every case. I am saying it happens. I have seen the evidence in my own shop. A customer came to me in 2021 with a 2018 Ford F-150 she bought from a private dealer out of Missouri. She paid $26,000 for it. Her Carfax showed one previous owner, no accidents, regular oil changes. The truck had 72,000 miles on it. She brought it to me for a routine oil change. I did the oil change, then I walked around the truck. The driver's side A-pillar had been repainted. You could see it in the texture under the right light. The paint had orange peel where the factory finish was flat. The door gap on the driver's door was wider at the top than at the bottom by almost a quarter inch. That asymmetry does not happen from the factory. It happens when a frame gets pushed in a frontal impact and the door opening changes shape. I put the truck on my lift. The driver's side frame rail had a heat repair weld. Factory steel has no welds in that location. Someone had bent that rail back with a frame machine and welded a support section over the damage area. I had to tell that woman her $26,000 truck had been in a serious accident. Her Carfax was clean. Her title said clean. Her truck was not clean. She sat in my waiting room for a long time after that conversation. Now let me tell you what a mechanic sees in the first 5 minutes with a rebuilt truck that a buyer never notices. These are the physical signs, not the paperwork signs, the physical ones. Paint inconsistency is the first thing. Factory paint from Ford, GM, Ram, or Toyota is applied robotically in controlled environments. The texture is uniform across every panel. When a body shop repaints a panel after a repair, the texture changes slightly. It may look close. Under showroom lighting, it will look close. Under afternoon sunlight at an angle, it will look different. Run your eyes along the door seams from the front of the truck to the rear. The reflection should be smooth and continuous. Any ripple or dulling indicates a repainted panel. Door gaps are the second thing. Every truck comes from the factory with specific tolerances for the gaps between body panels. Ford publishes these. GM publishes these. Ram publishes these. On an F-150, the gap between the door and the fender should be consistent from top to bottom within a few millimeters. Pull out your phone. Take a photo of the door gap on one side and the same gap on the other. Compare them. If one side is noticeably uneven, someone has been working on that frame. The third thing is the undercarriage. Get under the truck. Bring a flashlight. Factory frame rails are continuous and unpainted except for the factory undercoating. If you see fresh black spray coating in a specific area on an older truck, someone applied it recently. Fresh coating covers rust. It also covers repairs. Look at the frame rails for any welds that should not be there. OEM frames from Ford, GM, or Toyota do not have welds in the middle of the rail on a standard production truck. If you see a weld seam in the main rail, that truck has been repaired. The fourth thing is the airbag system. After a collision serious enough to total a truck, the airbags deploy. Replacing deployed airbags correctly costs between $1,500 and $4,000 depending on the truck. Some rebuilders replace them properly, some do not. A truck that had airbag deployment and was not properly repaired will throw a supplemental restraint system code. Plug a basic OBD2 scanner into the port under the dash. Run a full system scan, not just the powertrain codes. If the SRS module has stored fault codes that were cleared but not repaired, the scanner will show them. Some cheap rebuilds reset the code without replacing the module. Those codes come back. The fifth thing is the smell. A flood vehicle has a smell that does not fully go away. Dealers detail these trucks hard. They use ozone generators, they replace carpets, but the smell comes back, especially on a hot day with the truck closed up. If you are looking at a used truck from a state that floods, which includes Louisiana, Texas, Florida, Mississippi, and parts of Georgia and the Carolinas, put the windows up and let the truck sit in the sun for 30 minutes before you get in. Then open the door and smell. A clean truck smells like plastic and nothing else. A flood truck smells like mildew and something chemical underneath it. The states where this scheme runs most aggressively are not random. They cluster around geography and DMV policy. Vermont has been known in the industry for years as a loose title state. You can get a Vermont registration for a vehicle with minimal documentation compared to other states. Vermont registrations have been used to launder out-of-state salvage titles. The Vermont DMV has tightened this somewhat in recent years, but the practice created enough of a pipeline that it has its own name in the trade. Vermont washers. Kentucky, West Virginia, and Tennessee have had inspection systems that rely heavily on self-reporting by the repair shop, with limited independent verification in rural areas. South Dakota's registration system has historically been minimal on documentation requirements. Mississippi has had gaps in its title history reporting to national databases that create windows of opportunity for dishonest dealers. On the other end, California has some of the strictest rebuilt title inspection requirements in the country. New York does a physical vehicle inspection with a licensed inspector before issuing a rebuilt title. Illinois requires detailed documentation of every part replaced during the rebuild with receipts. These states are not elimination proof, but they create enough friction that most title washers avoid them. This matters to you as a buyer because the truck you are looking at may have started its life in a California flood zone, been totaled in Sacramento, hauled to Kentucky, rebuilt minimally, titled rebuilt in Kentucky, then transferred to a clean title state through a chain of private sales. By the time it lands on a used lot in Ohio or Pennsylvania with a clean Tennessee title and a Carfax that only shows the last 2 registrations, the full history is invisible to you. The resale problem is the part that dealers do not talk about and buyers do not think about until they are standing in front of a trade-in desk. A rebuilt title truck is worth significantly less than a clean title truck at resale. We are talking 40 to 60% of clean title value in most cases, sometimes less. When you take a truck with a rebuilt title to a franchise dealer for trade-in, they will either refuse it outright or offer you a number that reflects the rebuilt designation. When you try to sell it privately, buyers will run the title and walk away or negotiate you down hard. When you try to register it in certain states as a new resident, those states will require their own inspection before issuing their registration. Some of those inspections will downgrade the title if they find problems. I had a customer in 2019 who bought a 2017 Chevrolet Silverado 2500 for $31,000 from a dealer in North Carolina. Clean Carfax, clean title, beautiful truck. He drove it for 2 years. When he went to trade it in for a new Duramax, the Chevy dealer ran a VIN check through GM's internal system, not just Carfax. GM's own records showed a warranty claim filed in 2017 for frame damage. The truck had been totaled by an insurance company. The title had been washed through Alabama. My customer's $31,000 truck was now worth $11,000 at trade. He still owed $22,000 on the loan. The documented cases are not hard to find if you know where to look. In 2022, the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles issued cease and desist orders to 14 dealers across the Dallas-Fort Worth area for selling salvage-sourced vehicles without proper disclosure. 9 of those dealers were operating under certified pre-owned programs from non-franchised lots. In 2021, a used car dealer network operating across Tennessee and Georgia paid a $2.3 million settlement to buyers who had purchased flood-damaged pickups during the Harvey and Irma cleanup years of 2017 and 2018. The trucks were F-150s, Silverados, and Ram 1500s. All had been sold as clean used vehicles. None of the buyers were told about the history. In 2020, the National Insurance Crime Bureau released a report documenting 14,000 vehicles in the previous year that were suspected of title washing across state lines. Pickup trucks accounted for 23% of that number, the highest of any vehicle category. The reason is simple. Pickup trucks have high retail value. They hold their value better than sedans. They are bought by people who often trust them with their safety, their work, and their families. That makes them a high-margin target for this scheme. Here's what you do before you buy any used pickup truck. Not used trucks over $20,000. Any used pickup truck. Start with the VIN before you touch the truck. Go to the NICB's VIN check tool. It is free. Cross-reference with the NMVTIS database if you have access. NMVTIS is the National Motor Vehicle Title Information System. It pulls data from DMVs that Carfax does not always access immediately. The fee is a few dollars. It is worth every cent. If the NMVTIS history shows any state issuing a salvage or rebuilt designation at any point, you stop right there. Get a professional pre-purchase inspection from a shop that is not affiliated with the seller. Do not use the dealer's service center. Find an independent mechanic in the area, drive the truck there yourself, and pay for a full inspection. A real inspection takes 60 to 90 minutes. It includes a lift inspection of the undercarriage, a paint meter reading to detect repainted panels, and a full OBD scan including airbag and chassis control modules. Budget $150. It is the cheapest insurance you will ever buy on a vehicle. Check the title in your hand against the DMV records yourself. Most states now have online VIN history searches through their official DMV website. The information there is more current than Carfax because it is the source database. If the dealer hands you a paper title and the DMV online search shows something different, you have your answer. Look up the zip code history in the Carfax and the NMVTIS report. If the truck was registered in flood-affected counties during major storm years, that is a flag. Harvey hit the Houston area in 2017. Ida hit Louisiana and Mississippi in 2021. Ian hit Southwest Florida in 2022. The trucks that came out of those events are still moving through the used market. They will be moving through it for another 5 years. If a 2016 or 2017 F-150 shows a Houston area zip code in its registration history, you need to look very carefully at that truck before you hand over $1. Ask the dealer directly where they acquired the truck. Ask for the auction documentation if they bought it at auction. Legitimate dealers can produce this. ADESA, Manheim, and Copart all generate purchase documentation. If a dealer cannot tell you where a truck came from, or if the story changes when you push on it, that is information. Take it seriously. There is one more thing I want to cover before I close this out. The certified pre-owned label. That phrase gets used in ways that do not mean what buyers think it means. Certified pre-owned from an actual manufacturer program like Ford Blue Advantage or Chevy Certified requires a clean title as a condition of enrollment. A rebuilt title truck cannot enter those programs. Full stop. But the phrase certified pre-owned can be printed on any dealer's signage on any lot. An independent used car dealer with no affiliation to any manufacturer can write certified pre-owned on a window sticker. There is no federal law prohibiting that language when it is not explicitly tied to a manufacturer's program. The certification they're referring to might be their own 30-point inspection checklist that a lot technician ran through in 20 minutes. That is not the same as a manufacturer-backed program with a documented clean title requirement. When you see certified pre-owned on a truck at an independent lot, ask immediately, what program is this certified under? Get the answer in writing. If it is not a named manufacturer program with verifiable enrollment records, that label means nothing about the title history. I have worked on trucks from 1980 through last year's models. The F-150, the Silverado, the Ram 1500, the Tundra, all of them. They are good trucks when they are what they are supposed to be. A 2015 F-150 with a clean history and proper maintenance will run 250,000 miles without a major problem. I have seen this repeatedly. But a 2015 F-150 that was rolled in rural Oklahoma, rebuilt in Tennessee, and titled clean through Alabama will start falling apart in year 2 and will leave you stranded before year 5. Not because Ford made a bad truck, because someone rebuilt it with the wrong parts, wrong torques, and wrong welds, then made a profit selling it to you as a good used truck. The difference between those two trucks is invisible to a buyer who does not know what to look for. That is why this scheme works. Not because buyers are stupid, because dealers who do this are skilled at creating the appearance of legitimacy. They use professional detailing. They use Carfax reports they know are incomplete. They use certified pre-owned language on lots that are not affiliated with any manufacturer. They use clean title paper that traveled through 2 or 3 states before arriving on their desk. You do not have to be a mechanic to protect yourself. You just have to know to ask the right questions and to pay for the right inspection. Because the $150 you spend finding out the truth before you buy is always cheaper than the $30,000 you will regret spending after. Leave a comment below with the state you are in and the truck you are looking at. I will tell you what to look for specific to your situation. And if you know someone who is shopping for a used pickup right now, send them this video. It might be the most useful thing you do for them today.